I got a challenge for you. How would you set up an IPsec VPN between a checkpoint firewall with two firewalls FortiGate at the same time? And there are a couple of requirements. First, you have to use only one VPN tunnel from checkpoint, and two, the network side, the LAN side on the FortiGate will be the same subnet. Let me show you in the diagram what I mean. Okay, this is going to be our topology. So we're going to assume this is going to be our internet. Okay, and we have two sides. We have side A and we have side B. So here on side A, we have our firewall FortiGate. Let's call this as FGT1. And this firewall will be connected to the internet. And on this side, we have our firewall checkpoint. So let's call this as checkpoint CP. Okay. Now, as for LAN, on this side, we have the subnet 192.168.10/24. And here on side B, we'll have the subnet 192.168.20/24. Now, if you watch my previous video on how to set up an IPsec VPN using checkpoint, you probably know the answer by now, right? It's quite the same topology. But the thing is that now we have a challenge that we need to deploy another firewall. So we're going to name this as FGT2. It's connected to the internet. And we have to establish an IPsec VPN using the same tunnel on checkpoint side. How do we do that? And the LAN subnet will be the same. I'll give you a minute to think. Okay, to solve this problem, we have to look at checkpoint side on how to set up an IPsec VPN. Now, checkpoint supports two types of topologies for IPsec VPN. One of them is a very common one, and that's name has mesh topology. Essentially means that when you set up an IPsec VPN, let's say for instance you have a firewall, okay, you can set up an IPsec tunnel between these. So you can establish how many IPsec VPNs you want in any direction between any gateways. Okay, so that's the type of mesh topology. And they have another one, and that's called the star topology. So normally you would have a center gateway, and you would have other gateways that only establish an IPsec VPN with the center gateways. These other gateways, they are named as satellites gateways. So we have central gateway and we have the satellites gateways. And that's the topology we're going to use to solve this problem. So from checkpoint perspective, this is actually the recommended topology to use when we want to establish an IPsec VPN between our company firewall and other companies' firewalls. So in this case, we're going to use a star topology, meaning the checkpoint gateway will be in the center, will be the star. And these other firewalls, FortiGate's firewall, we're going to use it as satellite gateways. Now, if this sounds a little confusing, don't worry. I'm going to show you all the steps on how to set up an IPsec VPN star topology between the checkpoint gateway and firewall FortiGate. Okay, for the sake of time, I've already deployed the topology, and you can see it's very similar to my previous drawing. So this is going to be side A, and this is side B. So on side A, we have two FortiGates firewalls. So that's firewall 18 and firewall 19. And we have a Windows PC to manage both firewalls. And this is .2, that's the IP address. So that's going to be 192.168.1.2. And both firewalls will have the IP address 254. Now, you probably notice they have the same IP, which means that we can have both firewalls enabled on this interface at the same time. So first I only have this interface enabled on the switch, and I have this interface disabled. Otherwise PC wouldn't be able to use one firewall at a time. On side B, we have our checkpoint environment. We have the gateway or firewall, we have the management server, and we have the smart console. That's an application used to manage the management server installed on a Windows PC. And I'll be accessing this PC remotely using RDP. And also I have a Linux server here just to act as a web server, so that we can test the access from Windows PC to this Linux server. Now, if you're new to Checkpoint or FortiGate, I'm going to share links to previous videos where I recorded on how to get started with this technology. Okay, so let's get right into Windows PC on headquarters and see if we can start managing this firewall. Okay, so I'm going to log in with my password. I haven't configured much on this firewall. So if we go to policy and objects, you can see that it probably only has one firewall, or only the implicit one. Okay, that's the default implicit rule on the firewall. So we have to deploy everything from scratch, except for some objects that I've already created, such as the object for network 192.168.10 and 192.168.20. So those are the LAN networks for each site. So let's begin by navigating to VPN, IPsec tunnel, and we're going to create a new tunnel. So that's going to be a custom IPsec tunnel. So we're going to name these as I have already here. So that's going to be VPN Site-to-Site. That's going to be a custom one. So we're going to click on next. So here we're going to choose the IP address. So the remote gateway, that's going to be Checkpoint public IP address. In this topology, I'm using 168.2.2, and I'll use my one interface. In this case, it's going to be port 1. So that's port 1, 168.1.2, and I'm going to use what else? Pre-shared key. So I'm going to type my pre-shared key, and I'll be using also IKE v2. Okay, but you can use any other type of encryption you want. So I'm going to use this. Now the reason I'm using this is that Checkpoint, when you deploy on this trial license, it only supports weak ciphers. Okay, so you can't use stronger encryptions. I'm going to use this and SHA-256, and actually I'm going to use SHA-1, and I'm going to delete these other options, and I'm going to select Diffie-Hellman as 14, and I'm going to leave as default the key lifetime. As for phase 2, so we're going to change to local address to be named address, and I'm going to get those objects, the local subnet. So local address means the local subnet on site A, and remote address is the remote subnet on site B. So I'm going to choose 192.168.2.0. Now we also have to set the phase 2 encryption and hashing algorithms. So I'm going to select this as well, and here I'm going to select SHA-256 just because I want. I'm going to remove all these other options, and I'm going to leave enabled PFS, and I'm going to select Diffie-Hellman 14. As for the time, I'm just going to keep everything to 86,400. 86,400. Okay, and that should do it. So I'm going to confirm that and press OK. So the tunnel is created on the FortiGate 1. Now, if you ever configure FortiGate firewall for IPsec tunnel, there are a couple of things we have to do as well. So one of them is to add a static route pointing to the remote subnet and using the tunnel interface as the exit interface. So we go to network, and we're going to add a static route. We're going to create a new one, and that's going to be named address. So we're going to select 192.168.2.0. Going to select this one. Now the interface, we're going to select the interface. Don't try to type the gateway address, just select the remote or the VPN interface in this case, and that's going to remove the gateway option. And we're going to save this. Okay, so we have a static route to reach 192.168.2.0, and that's going to be our gateway, and that's going to be the interface. Lastly, we need to configure the firewall policy that will allow traffic through the firewall. Okay, we're going to create a new firewall policy, and we're going to name this as allow site to site. Now the incoming interface means locally on the firewall FortiGate, that's going to be port 2, that's my LAN interface, and the outgoing interface will be the VPN site to site. Okay, now the source address is going to be 192.168.1.0. Now I'm going to select this, and the destination will be 192.168.2.0. Okay, for services, I'm just going to allow everything. Okay, this is a lab, but in production environment, you have to be specific to which services you're going to allow. Okay, and what else do we need? Let's just confirm. I don't want to use NAT. Antivirus, just want to enable logs for all sessions in case we have to troubleshoot something, and we want to make sure that enable this policy is selected. Okay, so we're going to save those changes, and we are done from FortiGate side. Okay, so now let's jump over to checkpoint side. So here on Smart Center, I already have all the objects created. So if we go to gateways and servers, you can see I have the gateway and the management server already inside Smart Center. So in order to set up the VPN, there are a couple of things that we have to do first. On gateway 1, so that's checkpoint gateway or firewall, we have to make sure that IPsec VPN is enabled. Also, on network management, I'm going to expand this VPN domain. Okay, we have to make sure that our local subnet is one of the VPN, the subnets that will be protected by this gateway. Okay, and I already created this object 192.168.2.0. And also, optionally, you can set manually the link selection to be the WAN interface. Okay, so I did this just to save some time, so I'm going to cancel this because I don't want to make any changes. So once this is done, now we have to add the firewall FortiGate as an object inside Smart Center, and to do that, we're going to click on New, More, Network Objects, Gateways and Servers, More, and that's the wrong place, should be More, Interoperable Device. Okay, so here we're going to name this as FortiGate 1, and the WAN IP address is going to be WAN 168 WAN 1.1.2, and I'm just going to change the color to blue, and yep, just going to save this for now. Okay, and I'm going to publish those changes first. Checkpoint things. Okay, this is done. Now let me go back to interoperable devices. I'm going to select FortiGate 1, and we're going to add the subnet from site EA to its VPN domain. So if you go to topology, yeah, it should be here, user define. Let's see if I already have here. So I have 192.168.1.0. I'm going to select these and save these. Now if I go back to security policies, now here on access tools, VPN communities, now we're going to create a new topology, and that's going to be star, because that's the one we want to create this time. So star community, and so we give it a name, so that's going to be site to site. Keep it short, keep it simple, site to site. Okay, so which one is going to be the center gateway? Is going to be checkpoint. So we're going to select the gateway to be gateway 1. Now the satellite gateway is going to be FortiGate 1. Okay, so now let's go to encrypted traffic and encryption. Okay, so here we want to select IKE v2 because that's what we selected on FortiGate. So we're going to use IKE v2 only. As for encryption, recall that we use for encryption DES. Now data integrity, that was SHA, I believe SHA-1 on phase 1. Now Diffie-Hellman was 14. As for phase 2, encryption was DES as well, but SHA I use 256. Now I'm going to select also PFS on checkpoint site and select Diffie-Hellman 14 for this one. Okay, so that should be enough. Now if we go to shared secret, okay, now we're going to enable this shared secret and we're going to edit this option. And here we have to type the same shared secret we created on FortiGate. So that's going to be super secret secret. So this is done. Let's just make sure that everything is in place. Also the timers. Now checkpoint phase 1 timers is in minutes. Now if you recall, I used 86 and 400 seconds. So how do we know how many seconds it is? So we go to calculator and standard. Let's change this to time, and here I want to select seconds, so it's going to be 86,400. So that's 1440 minutes. So 1 minute or 1440 minutes. So it's the same thing. Now for phase 2, now it's in seconds. Now it's going to be 86 and 400 seconds. Okay, we're going to disable net inside the community for both center and satellite gateways, and everything else we're going to leave as it is. We're going to save these changes. Now checkpoint is going to throw this warning saying DES is not secure, you shouldn't use it. Yeah, I know. Let's just save this. And we have our community created. Now if you go back to policy, now we have to allow the traffic that's going to flow inside this VPN. So I'm going to add a new rule above the existing rule. I'm going to right click and add a new rule above. I'm going to name this as allow site to site. Keep it simple. Now the source will be let's see. So I want to allow bidirectional traffic, so from site A to site B and from site B to site A. So I have an object here, group nonat, but let's just do it using the right objects. So 192.168.1.0, and I can drag and drop this as a destination. Okay, and I can do the same here and the same here, just drag and drop. Now for VPN, I'm going to right click and select specific VPN communities. We're going to select the one we created. Okay, so we're going to select Site-to-Site VPN. Okay, now for services and application, I'm just going to select any. Now the action, we want to change this to accept, and you might want to enable tracking as well because we want to see the logs in case things don't go the way we plan. Okay, so everything looks okay. So now we're going to install the policy. Now first is going to publish or save the change and deploy the firewall, all the changes to the gateway. Okay, so it's going to throw this warning. Okay, yeah, we got it. And it's going to begin the installation process. Okay, the installation is completed. Now before we do any test from site A to site B, I want to see if I can actually reach the web server. So the web server is on IP address, that's not HTTPS, that's HTTP 2.3. So it's working. So now let's do the same test from our Windows PC on site A. Okay, so here I'm going to open another tab. And let's see, HTTP 192.168.2.3, and it's working. Okay, so it means that we have successfully established an IPsec VPN between FortiGate and Checkpoint. But we had a challenge, recall that. We need to set up 2 VPNs with these 2 firewalls with the same gateway. So what do we have to do next? We have to set up another VPN on FortiGate 2. But first we have to disable, okay, the interface on firewall 2, on firewall 1 actually. Okay, so I'm going to E00 interface and shut it down. Okay, so now I'm going to bring the interface E02, no shut. That's it. So this way PC can go through this firewall, okay, to reach side B. Okay, so now let's bring PC again, and I'm just going to refresh, and now it should go to firewall 2. So, and you can see this is a different dashboard. So this is black or dark and green. Again, I don't have any change so far besides the objects. So let's go to policy and objects, addresses. Now I want to close this tab just for now. So I have the same objects, 192.168.10 and 20. Okay, let's set up the tunnel. So we go to VPN, IPsec tunnel. We're going to create a new IPsec tunnel. And going to name this as VPN site-to-site, custom, next. So here we're going to select the IP address to be 168.2.2. That's the same IP from checkpoint. And interface will be port 1, but this time the interface is different on this firewall. As you can see, it is 1.168.3.2. On firewall 1, that was 1.168.1.2. Okay. So I'm going to select that. Everything I'll leave as default. For pre-shared key, that's going to be the same one. And IT will be version 2. As for encryption, I'm going to select this and SHA-1. I'm going to remove everything else. Now, for Diffie-Hellman, I'm going to leave only 14. And key lifetime, I'm going to leave it the same as well. Okay, for phase 2, we have to select local address to be named address. I already have the objects created, so you can select for this firewall is going to be the same. It's going to be 192.168.10, and for remote address, that's going to be side B remote address. That's going to be 192.168.2.0. Okay, so now we have to choose the encryption and hashing. So we're going to select encryption des, and it's going to be SHA-256, and I'm going to remove all of these. Okay, and we want to enable PFS and only select Diffie-Hellman 14. And also here the lifetime or seconds, that's going to be 86,400. Okay, everything is okay. So let's save that and confirm. Okay. So we have the tunnel created. Okay, next we have to create the state route to 192.168.2.0. So we go to network, state routes. We're going to create a new one, named address, and we're going to select the subnet 192.168.2.0. And the interface, we're going to select the VPN interface. Okay, and we're going to save those changes. Now, finally, the firewall policy. Okay, we have to allow traffic to flow inside the VPN. So we're going to create a new one. So we're going to name this as allow site to site. The incoming interface will be our port 2, and the outgoing will be the tunnel interface. Now the source will be our subnet 192.168.10. And the destination will be 192.168.2.0. Okay, for service we're going to select all, and everything else we're going to not leave as default because we have to disable NAT. I don't want to use NAT, and we want to enable all sessions and make sure that enable this policy is selected. Okay, and finally we can save this. Okay, so now we have to add this new gateway on checkpoint as well. Now you already know all the steps required, so let's do this. So we go to new, more, network object, more, interoperable device, and we're going to name this as FortiGate 2, the IP address will be 1.168.32, and the topology, we're going to select the user defined to be 192.168.10. So that's the local subnet on side A. So we're going to save these, and we're going to save those changes as well. Okay, we're going to publish these. Done. So now let's go to VPN communities, and we have to add this gateway to our VPN community as a satellite. Okay, so we're going to add a new satellite gateway, FortiGate 2, and last thing, we have to set the shared secret for this new gateway. We're going to edit that, and we're going to type the shared secret, and we're going to save that. Okay, so now we're going to confirm this. Checkpoint is going to complain, no problem, I know this. And we're going to install this policy. Okay, the installation is completed. Now let's test from our Windows PC, see if it still can reach the web server through this new firewall. So I'm going to open a new tab and navigate to 192.168.2.3, and it's working. Okay, and we can also confirm this if we go to FortiGate VPN. Actually, that should be login report, VPN events. Okay, and we should see that tunnel is up, page 2 is up. And we can also confirm this by navigating to IPsec monitor, and we should see that the tunnel is up. Okay, so we have now completed the challenge or the problem. We have 2 tunnels between 2 firewalls, FortiGates, with one single gateway checkpoint, but using only the star community. Now you might ask, okay, in which situation that would be useful? Actually, in scenarios where you need to have 2 tunnels set up between these firewalls for disaster recovery solution, for active standby scenarios. Another option could be to use both firewalls Fortinet at the same time by relying on a first hop redundancy protocol like VRRP, but that would be a different scenario and a different story for another video. I hope you got value from this one, and I hope to see you in the next one.